You're listening to the Australian Hunting and Beyond podcast with Matt, where we talk about hunting, shooting, fishing, camping, and everything else that the great outdoors has to offer. Let's get into it. All right, this has been a long time coming tonight because I have tried very unsuccessfully and dabbled in a little bit of trapping. And so I thought, well, I need some assistance. I need some help. The podcast is all about me learning and hopefully you guys following along and learning with me. So tonight I've got Tim Booth on, who is a trapper. Hopefully he'll give me something to be better than what I am, because at the moment I'm ordinary. How are you, Tim?
Yeah, good. How are you going?
I'm good. All right, I think we're going to cover quite a few things tonight, but do you want to give everybody a bit of your background first before we get into some of the topics?
Yeah. So how far back do we want to go? As far as the trapping stuff goes, like I've been doing this stuff for full time since 2013. Did quite a bit leading up to that part time. You know, even growing up as a kid, you'd always be making traps and you'd be trying to snare animals, and, you know, as you do as a kid, you'd be making all sorts of weird, cruel, probably back then when you're a kid. So yeah, that's sort of always had an interest in that and interest in hunting especially. But, you know, so this job, as I said, probably full time for, since 2013. Had one sort of little job in between that sort of broke that up a bit, but still kept going on with it on the side. Because obviously, you know, being self-employed, like I never had a full-time contract then. It was just basically just with the majority of private work and associations, like, because up here we do a lot of work through the Wild Dog Association. So combining the private work with the association work, and then with a bit of contract work on the side, like it allowed me to go full time pretty much. Then I think it was 2000. I'm just going to take it stabby. I think it was 2017, maybe 16. I'm not sure. I got pretty much a full time contract down the Hunter Valley. So that was they call it the Upper Hunter Wild Dog Program. It was just a program that sort of got a lot of funding through the AWI and like government bodies like Local Land Services, and I'm sure National Parks would have had some part to do with it. So that kind of allowed them guys down there to employ. There was three of us that were pretty much going hard at it. One of the guys, he sort of got laid back a little bit, and then that sort of increased the workload on me and this other guy, Vodka, that's working down there. He's top bloke, really good trapper as well. Been very lucky to sort of get to work with him, and, you know, he's come with me on a few runs, and I hope one day I can go with him. It always seems to be he comes with me. I never get to go with him. But anyway, so that work it's still ongoing. Like, I have because it's been about sort of 5-6 years that I've been going down there now, and that work I've sort of backed it off a little bit, just for a few personal reasons. Always away from home, because I'd be spending 2 weeks away, 2 weeks at home. When I was originally going down there was one point there where I spent nearly 30 days straight down there. But it was good. It was really hitting home the art form of it all. So now basically, now I'm spending more time at home, still doing that work there. Mainly just these associations up here have sort of chased up a little bit more funding and stuff, which is good. So, you know, we've got enough here now that, you know, if we can get these associations all working together, like, this job should be able to keep it rolling all year round, as well as I've dabbled in a bit of other contract shooting as well. And like do a little bit of aerial shooting. Probably want to do a little bit more of that because I want to hit that skill home. I certainly wouldn't say that I'm a marksman at that one. Just something that I'd like to do personally. Just getting into a few other pig ground shooting contracts, trapping, pig trapping contracts, things like that. But still, the dog stuff's taking priority, and there's a whole bunch of thermal work going on up here at the moment. When I say thermal work, like, that's all that night vision stuff. Been working really good on the predation side of it. It's just real cost effective for farmers, and it's kind of good. I enjoy it too because it's you get a result quick. That's what you get a bit of satisfaction out of that. So yeah, if that sort of covers what you were after.
Yeah, perfect. I think you've got quite a diverse background from where it started and keep going, which I like. And I've been following your stuff for a while, and I saw recently you are starting to run trapping education courses, which I think's fantastic, because for someone like me, I like to dabble in all different things and learn, and it's something that I'm interested in. I'm on a small property here, and I get a lot of foxes, but it's too small to shoot. So the trapping side of things is where I need to look at, but they seem to keep outsmarting me with my I've got one of the large cage traps.
Oh, yeah.
And they just will not go inside it. They're pretty switched on, they'll sniff around it, go right around it, but they just won't take the bait and go in. So it's I've heard a lot of people, some tips there saying just leave it open, don't set it, just let them get used to going in, put things on the floor so they don't feel the metal on the floor. And I've tried everything and just cannot get them in there. It's a tricky one. And then I even went down the light of a soft jaw hold trap. And then there's just, no good at all.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, but hey, I mean, that's, it's a skill, isn't it?
It is 100%. And like I'll be honest, I don't really use those cage traps much because they are really, like, for wild dogs, they're practically, useless really. For foxes, I have caught cats in them. Like, even my young fellas catch cats in them. They even use them for catching rabbits and stuff. Not putting any lure in them, but like just sitting them over the end of the rabbit warrens and stuff and making like a little funnel coming out. But yeah, just when you get into them little bit more clever animals, I guess, it's one of the things you got to be like to utilise a cage trap. You kind of need to bury it into the ground a little bit so that they're actually like walking on the dirt all the way in, and then not just have them exposed too. You got to kind of have them in a bit of bush. So it's even the same as pigs. Like you'll catch pigs in those panel traps, but when you get down to the more difficult pigs, and once they see a fair few of their mates and stuff get caught and things like that, they adapt to it very quickly. So, they've got these new net traps out now for pigs, and like they're very non-offensive to the pig's eye. Like they're quiet. There's no banging and clanging, no gate dropping, nothing like that. So they're a brilliant design. I've had the opportunity to use one of them firsthand, and they work very well. They're just brilliant design. But yeah, going back to catching animals in foothold traps, well, yeah, that's just the next level that you got to go to catch these little smart ones, like, as you say, your foxes that are too clever to walk into a trap. But again, like, and without me kind of seeing what you've been up to, like, it's a bit hard for me to help you, I guess, unless, we need to talk more about it. Tell me what you're up to, tell me what you use, and tell me how you're going about it.
Well, look, I've done sardines. I've oiled the trap up with tuna, like tuna oil. I've done all the things to try and offset mine. I make sure that my scent is covered. I use like gloves and make sure that I'll rub that in whatever. I've used KFC, the chicken, they are after my chickens. So I've tried collecting fresh feathers, eggs. Okay. All the different scents and things that I think that's attracting them. I even got like chicken shit and put that into the trap as well to really just try and set it up. But it's getting them there because I've got the trail cams on and they're coming around and you can see they want to get to what I'm putting in. They just will not go through the front door. And I've done exactly what you were sort of talking about before. I covered up with branches, had it in a bit of a choke point so that the cage was not conspicuous. It was, quite well hidden. But yeah, they get it. They're all over it. So, which is, look, hey, that's part of it. I can't imagine the wild dog side because they, I hear, are a completely different level compared to like a fox and a cat and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, and don't worry, foxes do get very cunning. We've had a couple of jobs where we've had to get a couple of very challenging foxes. However, the dogs, yes, 100%. And in the areas like where I work and Vodka, the other guy, and a few of these other fellas around, like, it is different to, like, we do get the opportunity to sometimes go into high populated dog areas, but essentially we get the call to go to them real shitty jobs where the dogs have been trapped and poked and prodded, chased, shot at, all sorts of things, and they are very touchy. And people have interfered. They've they've basically trained the dog to where it's at, like as being, how cunning they are and how clever they get, because they learn so quickly, like the wild dogs. And I'm not going to hide the fact they, like, I call them dingoes because dominantly they are. That's what they are. There's a lot of stuff going on at the moment with wild dogs and dingoes, but at the end of the day, I think on that side of it, I'm sorry, move off track here, but on that side of it, it is. I think we've got to be honest about what we're catching, and majority of what we are catching is a dingo. It doesn't matter whether really what it is. If it's killing your livestock, that's the concern. I mean, that's what we need to look at. But diving back to sort of the dogs that we're chasing, they are more of a hunting dog. Like they're not a scavenging dog. So these dogs are different to North Queensland. They are different to out west. Like you can't bait them. You can't do all these simple techniques. Like, and look, I'm not saying that you do keep things basic, keep things very practical, keep things very basic. Like I try and keep things as basic as possible and as practical as possible until such time as that doesn't work, and then you have to adapt and you have to change, and then that's when you got to start. That's when all the trying to outsmart the dog and stuff. That's when that comes into play. So
a really good. Tomorrow we're recording this on a Sunday night, and tomorrow I've actually got one out coming with Rob from down in Victoria, and he was actually touching on the dingo thing and wild dogs, and he was saying that down there they're 99.9% dingo.
Yep.
And heap of good information from him, and he was discussing how that dingoes won't actually breed with domesticated dogs unless it's in a domesticated setting. So they mate for life, and he gave us all this information, and he was saying, and I'm going off what he was saying, was that if they eat a sheep or something really fatty, that they can't process it well. So it makes them really sick. And in those areas, if the sort of adult dogs are left to teach the young ones, they won't predate on sheep, which I found interesting. And don't know how accurate it is. And he said, look, he's only talking about Victoria and he's not talking about everywhere else. And for me, I was like, okay, I get that. Now, he's all for if they're taking out livestock, then they've got to be dealt with. And, farmer has a livelihood they have to protect. And if you've got nuisance animals, then you need to take care of them. It was a really enlightening conversation because, as you just said, that the majority of these, and I've seen your Facebook page, and I know you got 4 the other night out of 5 using thermals, and they look like dingoes, don't they? Like you look at them and go, they're dingoes.
Yeah, and I know they are, because like I have DNA tested quite a few, and the ones that I have tested, I've got a mate actually. He's done the same thing. His area, I think he had a few more hybrids, and he might have had 1 or 2 like domestic dogs gone wild.
Okay,
but out of all the ones that I've ever done, I've had 2 hybrids come back. Now, in saying this, I've only DNA tested like the ones that have been killing livestock. So I didn't want to just go out and DNA everything, because that's really irrelevant for what for what I wanted to personally know.
Yep.
It's just one of these things where I can say, well, okay, well, no, look, dingoes do attack people's livestock. Like people say that they don't, and I mean, like, not to start an argument with the other guy who you're talking to, but just in my case, I haven't seen a situation where by leaving older dogs behind or anything, that they teach the younger dogs not to. I've probably seen more quite the opposite of that.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really about food source, and again, this is where I think people can get really off track with trying to think too much into the science of it. You got to think more practical, because it's all about food source. It's about food source and survival, and that's they have adapted and survived here for a long time. So, and I'm not against any form of dog control. Like, it doesn't bother me how we do it. It's just I only sort of promote the methods that work. I only use the methods that work. So this is where we're going into like the baiting side of it, I guess. I am still yet to see any significant results from that. I've, again, done all my own research and testing into that sort of stuff. Like, I've done my own mock baits and stuff like that, some really good ones too, and I still can't even get a dog to touch some of those. So, but again, it depends on your area. If you will get good results if you bait in areas that have never been baited, or if it's an area where that may have been routine baited, in years gone by, but then you've just left it for a break and, gone back sort of 5 years later and hit it again. So what I've found, dogs will adapt to routine very, very quickly. This is something that is a big one, and you can use that right from trapping through to your baiting to all your control techniques, but just even to learn more about the species, they adapt very, very quickly. They're very, very clever. So, I think we've developed the dog that we have now in these areas, because it does get very heavily baited. So anything that was a scavenger would be gone. You know what I mean? Because they're probably the only ones that are going to pick up a bait. Well, we've got dogs out on a job where I'm just at the moment. We've had dogs on camera there for, since Christmas. They've been through the whole baiting process, the aerial and the ground bait. They were still on camera the other day, and they were still there until, we've caught them the other day. So we've basically created this dog that we're chasing now, which is more of a clever hunting style dog, I believe. It's certainly in these areas where I'm working anyway.
Well, it makes sense. If you talk about sort of natural selection and evolution and talk about if we're baiting or we're going a particular method, and as you said, if you're baiting, you're looking for scavengers because they haven't killed the prey. Yep. So those dogs that are more, I guess, will more easily scavenge, they're going to be wiped out from the baits. Yep. Whereas those dogs that are more pure hunters, they're not going to be impacted as much, and they're going to breed together, and that genetic, disposition is going to continue. Hence, you've got more animals on the landscape that are more predatory rather than scavengers.
Yep.
That makes complete sense to me. When you think about it like that.
This in these areas where I work, I get sick of catching yellow dogs. I want to catch a black one for something different. That's and you see when you see this, and it wasn't that long ago. We're only talking. You'd see black and tans and different things. So any of those dogs that I have seen where baiting has worked on, out of one dog out of many that was captured, I won't elaborate too far into this, but on one dog that was captured, was baited. It was the only dog that was a black dog. The others were all yellow. No yellow dogs took the baits. The only dog that did was the black dog, and he had a bit of something else in him too. So,
I don't know if you follow the States and things going on over there, but they say that all black wolves somewhere in their history have had to mate with a domesticated black dog.
Yeah, righto.
Wolves do not come with black. So if you see a black wolf, it has directly had some lineage to a domesticated dog, which I find that really fascinating. And I wonder if that's the case with our dingoes.
Could very well be,
yeah. It makes sort of sense to me that could be the case. And then that would make more sense if you're talking about dingoes, and from all accounts are a bit smarter than a domesticated wild dog. That would make more sense as to why a black dog would be more scavenging as opposed to hunting like the dingo. And
he goes back to his domestic roots. That's right.
Correct. Yeah. It all makes sense. That's just logical, I think. But I just find all this fascinating.
And you think going back, back to I think it was the 80s or something. It was late 80s or something. Anyway, when they my old man was talking about it, when they started using 1080 bait a lot, and that used to work. They wiped out, they really knocked the dog population on the head for a while. But as you've seen, and look, foxes will do the same thing. It does. Even pigs will eventually. You're dealing with wild animals that adapt to surviving in the wild. So you got to remember what you throw at them. They will adapt. They will change. If you don't adapt and you don't change, you're going to be behind them the whole way. So that's the problem, I guess, where we're at. And that's why I guess we still have the wild dog problems, because we need to think about how we'll look at who dictates the way we do dog control. It's not the dog controllers. So, it's something worth thinking about.
I think I talk about always being pragmatic and looking that it has to be a multifaceted approach with everything, because whether it be deer, whether it be natives like kangaroos, dingoes, the whole lot, right? You have to attack it from different angles, because each animal will have its own weak point. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you talk about deer that have never seen humans, that they smell humans and they might not go straight away. But those deer that have been shot at and missed, they have caught wind of a human, then they know that is related directly to fear.
Yes.
And talk to a lot of people about hunting and, you know, shooting at an animal and the animal just sort of doesn't know what to do and doesn't take off. And it's like, well, that animal never got shot at, in my opinion, because it doesn't understand what's going on.
That's exactly right.
If you've shot at an animal and got close, you see you see them take off. If it was the first time, you know, if they were just instinctively reacting, they have a higher survival rate than one that gets shot at, the bullet whizzes past, and it stands there going, what just happened?
Looks at you,
yeah, exactly. So again, it's like that genetic disposition of being passed down. And interestingly, we talk about that and we talk about hunting sambar deer and that they evolved around tigers hunting them.
Yeah, that's it.
So they are way more switched on than fallow deer, because the same way they look out for predators is probably different. Now, that's a genetic thing because there's no tigers here. So those sambar, that's just in their DNA. And I feel that animals are like that. They pass those traits down and they learn and it's why the biggest stag is the one that mates and holds everyone, because he's the smart one. He knows that he survived for so long on a landscape where there are predators, there are people hunting him, there are, you name it, doesn't matter what it is. That's got to be passed down through the genetic pool. And that's the reason nature looks for those big, older, mature animals, because they've survived. They don't want the little, first year that's dumb running around. I just got back from a trip in the snowies and there was a little spiker on the way down back to town one night, and he stood in front of the car, ran back and forth in front of the car, and we're just sitting there, literally could have thrown a rope around his neck. And we're sitting there going, all right, now smarter animals definitely aren't doing that.
No.
They're away. So his chances of either getting hit by a car or shot are probably quite high.
I'd say someone will be taking his back straps.
Yeah, probably. So so I think that definitely does get passed down, and that's one of the trickier things. And, with the dingoes, they're on a next level again, and how smart they are, that if they do find the bait or if they do find a trap, that I've seen footage of them pushing pups off 1080. I've seen footage of them. Actually, my mate, he's got great trail camera footage of them, of the adults teaching the young ones about a foothold trap that he had laid down, and he had it covered pretty bloody well. It must have been some scent or something like that, but he's got the footage of it. It was pretty insane watching it going, they're teaching. You can see it there, which is awesome to see. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of nature. I know it's sort of weird. People go, oh, you hunt up at you. Oh, nature's amazing. And how smart the animals are and how they adapt. And it's brilliant to see. And I think that's where people sort of don't get the hunting side of it too, that we appreciate that animal. But they still have to be kept in check. And as you said, you're out there, you're trying to control numbers so that farmers aren't losing livestock, which is important because that's our food source as well. And we're a big population. We need that food source.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I couldn't agree more with what you said there. They've learnt, they're teaching their young about traps. They're teaching about baits. That's what's hunting them. It's no different like what you said with the deer. It's like the deer work out that we are hunting them, so that's why they take flight and run. It's no different. So whether it's a trap, whether it's a bait, whether it's someone shooting at a dog, you can go into places where the dogs have never been interfered with, and you can drive up there. They don't show fear of a vehicle. They don't show fear of a person. Like, I know a mate of mine up towards Casino there, like, the dogs are killing cars on the side of the highway because they know that they can't. Well, they know that they've never been hurt. So, it's 100% right. Like, and they are very, very clever. They learn things very quickly. As I said, the other guy down, the hunter, like, he runs them for a scent dog, so he uses them for a scent dog, and they're very, very good at that. And who'd ever thought that you'd be able to teach a dingo pup to open a Land Cruiser door and get in the front and shut the door?
Stop it.
I'm not kidding. So this dog was, I think it was only like a year and a half old. Like, it was only a big lump of a pup. It might be 2-year-old. I don't know. Not an old dog. And the interesting part about it, this is not even teaching that dog that. So he never taught that dog how to open that door. It just must have just watched him and just worked out. I'll send you a personal video. I'll send you a video on private message. I'll make sure he's happy before I send it, and I'll send it to you. And I'll show you his dog. Yeah, it opens the cruiser door. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
wow.
Gets in the front. Yeah,
that doesn't shock me. I know they're smart, and like I look at, I don't know if you've seen, it's sort of a little off topic, but the Belgian Malinars. And you ever seen them?
No, I haven't.
Oh, mate. So they're like a German Shepherd, but smaller. They're faster, more agile.
Are they like the police dog ones?
Yeah, they're the ones that you see running up like, 5-10 meter walls and jumping back and flipping, and they're unbelievable, but they're super, super smart. And you can see that, and you can see their ability to learn and adapt. So that doesn't shock me that, an animal can pick up on that like a dingo and be able to learn and adapt and be able to do that. That's impressive. But again, they're such a brilliant animal. Wow. And I think that's where people sort of have that heartstring attachment and don't want to see any harm come to them. Yep. And I think I get where they're coming from, but I also feel that they don't understand the balance that nature needs to have. Yep. And that we've played such a big part in that and changing that, that we need to also still be on the landscape and be a part of that.
Yeah, and here's one for everyone to remember. Now, I've done this long enough now and have seen enough and been around enough that, and look, I don't claim to know everything by any means, because there's always something to learn. However, when it comes to should we stop hunting the dingo, or should we stop hunting the wild dogs? I don't agree with that, because the moment that we stop, their numbers are going to get out of control again. They already are out of control in majority of the country, but I'm sort of referring to the places where I go. So I would go as far to say, and I reckon I'm pretty damn close to hitting the nail on the head here. Like, I would go as far to say is, even if everyone got out there and tried to wipe out the dingoes, there is no possible way you'd even come close. So people need to stop worrying about it, because we're never going to do it, even if we try. And all as we're doing at the moment, we're just suppressing. We're really, what's the word for it? So we're sort of we're just conserving livestock at the moment. That's pretty much about all we're doing. Like, we're not really knocking numbers back in. It's a bit like the pigs at the moment. So, like, it's ridiculous amount of pigs. I won't go into details too much here, because again, there's so much I can say, but it's thousands of pigs. Like, the LLS do a very, very good job of knocking pig numbers back, and they've shot thousands and thousands and thousands. And honestly, they wouldn't even be afraid to say, even with all those numbers that we've got, it's only just a pinprick. We're really only doing crop preservation. That is really, they're not, because you've got to kill 80% of a population before you make a difference. That's the thing. So you think if you come across one mob of pigs and, say if there's 10 pigs in there, you have to kill 8 of those pigs out of that mob to even make a difference. If you're going to shoot 1 or 2, and it's okay to think to yourself, you might be helping, but you're really not doing anything. I'm not going to say you're wasting your time, but I'm going to go as far to say is you're not the big picture. You're not really helping the big picture. Like, you're not hurting it, but you're not helping it. You know what I mean? You've got to take out 80% of a population to really knock pigs back, because they breed at such a rapid rate.
I was going to say that. Yeah, I know that the figures are 30% for deer, but that would make sense, because they have 1 fawn, maybe 2 on a real rare occurrence once a year, as opposed to pigs.
Every 2 months.
Jesus, every 2 months. But then they can breed, I think, within, don't quote me, I think it's 4 to 6 months. Yeah, it's real quick. Quick. So you're right. If they're having a litter every 2 months, in 6 months, they're popping them out. Every single one of those offspring are now breeding as well. Yep. That's a big difference. And you can see, I'd say 80% would probably be right there on the money, because they do breed so crazily. It's interesting from that, because everyone I speak to at the moment is having pig problems. They're saying they're just everywhere, which, it's one of those things. It's interesting though, because I have been very, talked on the podcast about, I've struggled to get private access. And one of the things is, even for pigs, it's not for deer. I think people sometimes think that I'm only going for deer access. I'm just going for hunting access, because whether it be pigs, whether it be wild dogs, whether it be anything, foxes, I'm happy to try and help farmers out where I can. And even though we're in such a thing, I'm still struggling for that, which is interesting for me. But I then also get it talking to people that, it's a big risk for farmers. And I understand why they look at people like yourself, because you've got that company, you've got that, it's a business for you. So you're less likely to be a Yahoo. It's your livelihood. Makes complete sense.
It's a bit of a complex topic, that one. Like because, you see, like with the aerial shooting, you see like the mass culling. Like, I mean, it is such a shame that it's so hard for people who are keen to go out and use that resource, because I'm all for it. Like, I'm all for, going and doing the hunt, packing all the deer out, like take all the meat, all that stuff. I'm all for that, 100%. And I don't like to see things go to waste, like huge deer numbers. But I mean, I don't know. I don't have the answer for it. But yeah, I certainly believe if they made rec hunting more available to people, it'd be, well, look at the state forest. Their best form of feral animal control is recreational hunters. That's the best they got.
It's such a complex topic. And I have said, and it's interesting, I had a bloke reach out, and I think I spoke about this on the podcast anyway, but I'm against aerial culling in public land where I feel rec hunters can get out and use the meat.
Yep.
I'm not against it for farmers if that's what they need to do and it's their property and it's their livelihood. That's up to them. I have no issue if they want to spend the money on aerial culling, that's there. I'm under the impression, I'd love to hear more because you're starting to get into it, is that, I'm going off the data and things like that down in South Australia where there are multiple shots, it's not clean and ethical in my opinion. I feel that if rec hunters on the ground was shooting like that, we'd probably have it eliminated very, very quickly. But then, and again, look at Victoria at the moment, like you sort of sit there and they want to ban lead ammunition but for aerial culling and professional, it's fine to use, which is sort of contradictory. And I think that's where a lot of people get their back up against it, going, well, that doesn't make sense. You're banning rec hunters who might take one or two shots, but then you've got people shooting a lot more and saying, okay, well, lead is okay, but that is completely against what you're saying. Well, we want to get lead out of the environment for safety. Well, they don't marry up. And I think that's where people get their back up. And, I've said it, I like copper. I personally would rather shoot something with a copper bullet than a lead bullet because lead is not good for you. I think the data for that's very clear. I don't want that in my meat, right? So, but I then understand the other side of it. So, but you also need it. So this is where I think, and this gentleman reached out and said, well, you haven't seen this on properties. And I said, look, I get it. And that is a different story. I'm against taxpayers spending a heap of money to have things aerial culled when I don't have access to that area too. Like national parks around here in Sydney, in Royal National Park, my God, Roosa everywhere. I would actually, and then let's go down the other track here. I wouldn't be opposed to aerial culling in national parks if they use the meat, if they worked out a way instead of just leaving them there to rot. Because in my opinion, if you're leaving them there to rot, you're then just, the meat's probably going to be a food source for other feral animals,
exactly
which is, it's just a cycle. And that's my beef against it in sort of the whole. And I'm not trying to paint you into a corner and anything like that here. It's just that's my opinion. And hey, I could be completely wrong and everyone's entitled to their opinion. So
I totally, I agree with everything there that you said. They're with what's going on down in South Australia and there's been so much stuff go on. Like there's been fabricated, animal bodies being shot and stuff like that. Like it's an interesting one. They've done an investigation into one down there and the boys are like, they done like a full-on autopsy on a deer or something. And anyway, the worked out that the deer was shot with a centerfire rifle. And the boys are like, well, on this job, we're only allowed to use shotguns. They didn't even take a centerfire rifle. So they really stuffed that one up.
Yeah, right.
They all had to use shotguns. That was part of the SOPs for that job, shotguns only. So, where did this person come out and just decide to make aerial culling look bad because of that? There's another video, and I'm not trying to defend anyone here. I'm just saying, just some points for people to remember. there was a video getting around on Facebook of a helicopter. I think it was chasing like 4 fallow deer or something out of the scrub into some open country. And, there was heaps of comments on there, and they're saying, I counted 10 shots, and other guy, someone else was jumping, yeah, I counted at least 10 shots. Oh, that's terrible. There's 4 deer there, the shit shooters and all this sort of stuff. Well, they never even, like, you just got to take a step back and go, okay, what were those guys required to do? Like, what was their training? So if you shot 4 deer with 10 shots out of a helicopter, that's friggin' good shooting. And I'll tell you why. Because it's not about the one shot, one kill. It's all about time to death when you do that. So if every animal shot from an aerial platform has to be shot 2 times minimum, regardless of if it's dead. So what you do as you're flying along, you start at the back, you shoot the one at the back, you go bang, bang as you're flying past. So there's 2 shots straight up for one animal. Now, if you even see that animal kicking, or you just think like it's not worth flying on, because you cannot leave an animal alive, you cannot move on from that animal unless it is 100% dead, you just shoot it again. And the reason why you do that third one, everything's done in the first 3 seconds. The reason why you do that third one is so that you and the pilot can both fly to the next one and go, okay, we are very satisfied that is not going to bite us in the arse. So to shoot 4 fallow deer with 10 shots, if that's what the people counted on the video, damn good, real good.
Well, that's saying the 2 that you've got to put into it, plus there's 2 extra
you
shots
have to put
for 4
2
animals.
Yeah, you have to
so
put in 2.
So that's what I'm saying. So,
yep. So, just something that people should keep in mind, that when they hear a lot of shooting, it's every animal. It doesn't matter. You can shoot one of them little slips and blow it to bits, and you still got to shoot it again. Like, it's just part of it's crazy. Like, it's just part of your job. Like, that's what you have to do. So, but again, moving on to in areas where should be, like, I believe parks should be opened up to recreational shooters. Like, 100%. If there's resources in there that people can use, why not? Like, look at America. Like, they've got their conservation nailed. Like, as far as proper. Like, I've had mates of mine go over there, and they come back and they're like, we're so far behind here. Here we wait for. This is what I see all the time. Here we wait for a population of whatever species get completely out of control, and then we mass cull, and then everyone gets a. So instead of having something good and steady, where just continually letting your rec hunters, do their bit, keep, everyone enjoys it. Like, it's a great thing for father-son activities, mother, whatever. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you just family activities, going out, harvesting a bit of meat. It's great. I take my boys out and do it all the time, and I'd love to see everyone do it. To be honest, like, it's I'm not all for one and not the other. I'm open to all that stuff. Like, it's not. But as I said, and I'm not trying to back anyone up with the helicopter shooting, because I've seen some terrible, terrible helicopter shooting. There was a video of a guy, I don't know if you've seen it, shooting horses somewhere over in Western Australia or something, but it was only just recently. It was pulled down on Facebook pretty quick. It was, that sort of stuff gives people a real bad name. Like, this guy shooting, there was 3 horses in open country, flat terrain. The guy comes in and he, it took him, I think, at least 6 shots before he even hit the first horse. And, like, this is flat country. This is not like where we shoot, where it's high timber and hilly country where it's difficult. This is all easy flat stuff. Like, this is a cream. And he shoots his horse and it rolls over. And because he's got it on a helmet cam, the horse is still kicking. He just flies onto the next one. Like, no care to make sure that horse was dead. And then shoots the next horse. I think it took him about 2 shots to get that one. It does the same thing. It looks like it's still kicking as they fly past. And then the next one, he shoots like 4 shots at it, misses it. Then with the 5th shot or something, he hits it through the arse end, and then it's bloody hobbling along on its front end, and then misses another 2 shots, and then he finally hits it. And then who would put that on bloody YouTube and be proud of it? Like, that's absolutely pathetic.
Yeah, look, and I think it's horses for courses, no pun intended, in that there's some good operators out there. There's some not good operators.
Exactly, and that was just a private. That was just a private guy who thought he was doing a good job, but it wasn't.
And you touched on a couple of good things there. Is that and that's why I love having these conversations with everyone. Doesn't matter what their viewpoint is. It's not about an argument. It's about learning and hearing other perspectives of why. I did not know that they needed to put 2 into an animal. Yep. That's perfect. I appreciate you informing me that, and then now that adds to my thoughts about the whole scenario.
Yep.
So it's not a bad thing to be able to have these discussions and find out different elements and different aspects. And I think that's what probably more people want, is that transparency. And I think there's space in it for everyone. That I don't want to see, like I talk about rec hunters and I talk about we contribute to the economy, blah, blah, blah. That's great. All good things. I'm not saying it's not. But then also the pro shooters, there's jobs. That's great for the economy too. That's how people supporting their family. I have a couple of mates that hunt on private blocks regularly and they're out every single night.
Yep.
For a bloke like me, that's impossible. I'm never going to be able to do that. Well, not in this current stage of my life, but we need professional shooters out there. We need rec hunters. We need all of it. That's the thing. I think people sometimes get their back up against the wall. They want to fly the one flag for everyone. And I think you've got to be a bit more open-minded about the whole situation. And, as I said, I'm not against aerial culling on private property if that's what the farmer wants. I am against in the national park, where I think it's a waste of money for a taxpayer resource, where I've talked about, we could shoot them under thermal. We could, there's so many elements that you could do or do both. Like if you really are that persistent in the national parks to aerial cull, open it up for rec hunters and do the aerial culling too. Do both.
It does. And I have seen this just in the lead up to some of the, just some different programs and stuff. So this is where, and it does get, this is what I mean. It's sort of one of these flowing things. So like, as you said, you get your private guy who wants to just knock numbers back because they're simply ruining his crops, but then he'll be complaining at the parks because he'd be like, well, that's where the pigs are coming from, so we need to do that. Like it's one of the, it does, I can certainly see in a lot of situations where, that wouldn't be the case, where 100% what you're saying, just get the rec hunter, like have a good steady form of rec hunters getting in there throughout the year, all year round too. Like, don't just cut it off. Like, try and do it all year round. Obviously, maybe don't let people go in there during school holidays and stuff like that when people, because it's a public area. But that is another one though. Like, you do get a lot of farmers and landowners that they will put a lot of pressure on national parks to allow them to get in and suppress numbers as well quickly, because it's all about as soon as it's all just what people see there and then. Like if they go out one day and then all of a sudden there's all their crops are bloody like paddocks are dug up and stuff, and they want it done yesterday. So
which I completely get. Yeah. Well, I completely understand that they're making a living, and every time that animal comes in, focusing on pigs, that they're rooting around, they're digging things up, they're destroying crops. It makes complete sense. That's just complete loss off the bottom line of their business, and farmers do it tough enough. So I think it's about how can we use everything at our disposal, and for me, not waste good meat. Like I think pigs are a little bit different, and it's up and down with disease and things like that. If you want a chance,
genuine pest, no,
correct, and exactly. And I'm definitely not going to eat one. Nah. So, but then I look at deer and go, that's the opposite. They're frigging great meat. That should be treated differently to a pig, in my opinion.
I agree.
Same as foxes, same as dogs, same as cats. There's different requirements for each, and we need to be mindful of that. And I just think we don't use all the tools at our disposal, which is a shame. But then I also love what you're doing. As I said, we talked about the education course, and I want to talk a bit more about that for people that might be interested. I know I am, and I'll eventually get up there and do one, because I think it's just another feather in the bow, which I'm all about, and learning a new skill. Love it. That's something I absolutely try and do all the time. So when you are doing these, I mean, it seems pretty popular would be the first thing. Is it people wanting to learn new skills? Is it property owners that are getting sick of, the numbers? Is it a bit of a mix?
So like obviously the majority of the interest that you've probably seen on Facebook and different things, that is just people obviously wanting to learn the skill. Now, we are, when I say we, I'm going to refer to a couple of mates of mine, so Sam and Vodka, the other guy who does what I do down the Hunter. We're trying to organise something good as a private school. Now, I've sort of pretty well got it down pat. So primarily what I've done so far though has all been funded stuff. So that's where we get only select certain people to go on it. It's not open to just anyone. So we select certain people who we think and deem, that are going to actually benefit and use the skill. Not because we're at a point where we just can't waste that funding on someone who just wants to come in and have a look and, maybe go out and have a play one day. So these are all landholders who are willing to, the basic sort of trapping school that we run was more based around resetting traps. So it starts off with just the basic setting, but then and on all your trap tuning and stuff, and how to prepare a trap and all that. But then it just so we do that. Then the basic setting, but then also the big one is as a farmer. So it's cheaper for them in the long run if, say, I go out and set traps for them if they've got their own. So I haven't got my gear tied up. I'm happy to go out and spend a day or two and do that, and then because I've got plenty of other things I can do, so they can then just run the traps from then on. So, but I need to know that they're going to reset those traps at a high standard, because the bycatch, and I guess when I keep saying reset, you're probably thinking, wonder why they're resetting traps all the time. But anyway, so where that comes from is your bycatch set them off all the time. And up here, you've got roos everywhere, wallabies, and when you start using some of those good lures, I really only use like Eurons and stuff, but when you use something good like on heat bitch piss or something like that, when you're trying to trap a dog, everything goes. The wallabies love it, the pigs love it, you name it. Everything just goes on heat bitch piss.
Yeah. So everything's stepping in it and setting it off.
Yeah,
And
And
okay,
once you get through that, like once they normally leave them alone for a while, but you just got to. And it depends on the area. Like some areas, you don't have any of the problems. So you have good success. But it's just that whole resetting. And cows, mate, I've got heaps of videos there. Cows just stepping in traps and just bending your traps up. Like it's everything. Sheep, cows, you name it. The whole, all of the above. Rabbits.
Yeah.
Things like even ducks and things. Like you run pan tension so you don't catch those animals. But when they just pound it, like it eventually goes off. So. You catch everything anyway. So the idea of those schools is you got to be able to come away from it and go, okay, I can reset a trap to a high standard. I know what to do if my site is ruined. I'm confident that I can move it and I can relure, still maintain the same area, because that's where, if I've gone out there and done the setup work, that's where I've found the dog sign. So we want to stay within those areas, but just give them the general basic skills to be able to go out, identify dog sign, and basically set a trap and reset that trap to a high standard if it's set off. That's basically where that finishes. And then we do another one, which is much, much more enjoyable for me and I guess the others as well, because I suppose it must be more interesting, is that advanced one that we do. And that's more scenario based. So if people have already done like the basic one and then they've gone out, it's not something that you'd probably do back to back. It's something that if you do the basic one, go home, use that, learn that, master that, try and catch a few dogs, try and catch a few foxes, whatever it is your target species is, but then come back, do the advanced one. Or, if it's like we did one out at Tenterfield, those guys, I think they done the Stewie Boyd Law School, which was a basic one anyway, but then they had caught a fair few dogs and things. So those guys already had their own little tricks and things, and it was interesting because you can always learn something. And even for me to go out there and to show those guys what I knew, I even took things away from that, which was awesome. So it's more scenario based. So it's putting the pressure back on the participants, I suppose. And just we do things like there's two things that you see in dog trapping, like when things start getting tough, and the two main, and it's not only two things, but the main two things is a dog will either he'll get a bit trap shy or he'll get a bit lure shy, and you've got to work that out. There's other things like your scent and stuff, but you've got to work out which one of those. And so, and you can do that with cameras and stuff. You can kind of work that out. And what you can do, what we do is so scenarios based around, okay, we're dealing with a lure shy dog. So you guys show me, what would you do? And then, they already have their little things, tricks and stuff that they, perform and stuff. And then, if there's anything that I can help them with as far as that goes, which there is always something, I go through and say, okay, well, why don't we just do this as well? Or how about we do this, And then it's the same with the trap shy dog. Like, there's ways around that. Like, okay, we do a mock scenario. Here's a creek crossing. You've got dog tracks predominantly on that side crossing here. You've got a camera up there that says that he comes here and he crosses down the bottom side majority of the time. Because this is all real life scenarios that I've faced. Exactly, like I'll try and set them up to exactly what I've done before. Even I think we spoke about, like when we spoke to you on the phone there a while back about that shooting course. It's the same deal. I've been faced with some scenarios, and I run those scenarios at that too. So yeah, it's stuff that is legit. Like I've used it, and I don't want to teach anything that I haven't used or haven't proven in some way, shape, or form, because I don't want to bullshit people, and I want to be able to back up what I say. So I don't want people to go away and start using something for it to never work for them. I mean, there are a million ways to skin a cat. This is just a few more added on versions of that, I suppose. Yeah, and just to think outside the box. And it was kind of good. Like most of the guys, they all enjoyed it. They reckon it was pretty fun, that scenario-based stuff. And again, it's not... See, we touch on thermal and all that sort of stuff because that's another form of dog control. And it's stuff that if you're getting more into your trapping, you kind of... Like we're talking about before, you got to use more than one thing. So you got to start stepping into adapting in other ways. Because I've had dogs where... Like I've got a ladder rack there, and I've got some skins hanging over it, and those skins are just from, dogs that are significant. And, there's one dog there I chased him for about 4 years, and I got him with thermal in the end. I never had thermal when I started, though. So I beat him in the end, but, I mean, it took a long time, and he killed over 500 sheep. Like, it was ridiculous. So,
wow.
Yeah, and that's why he's hanging on one of the rungs. So, yeah, he was a good one. So, but yeah, that's what it came to. And it was the third night on the thermal too that got him. And it was a bit of a story behind that one. So that dog, I had another guy with me. He actually didn't have a thermal. He would just come along as just a second set of eyes in case one of us got tired. But we spent 2 nights in one spot. The first night we were there, he didn't come in. The second night, the sheep had moved into 2 different mobs. Didn't know that though. They were 2 different mobs of sheep that were put into the paddock, and they just didn't seem to like camping together. And the one camp we had a visual on. The other camp, which wasn't a camp where the sheep decided to camp, it wasn't visible. So as we've gone in there, without trying to disturb everything, we're like, oh, yep, we can see sheep on the camp. Good to go. Anyway, sat there all night. Sheep stood up and down a couple of times, not much, but as soon as it come daylight, mustn't have come in again. So we walk over the hill, and here we are faced with 3 sheep sitting there with their guts ripped out. So the dog had come in, and he had hit the other mob of sheep that we couldn't see. So we're like, well, there you go. So I think we went in again, and I don't think the dog came in. It was like it might have been 4 nights, and then we went away, and we're like, we'll just have to let this dog pattern back up again. Need a bit of a rest from it. The dog came in, but the dog changed its pattern straight away. It went because it was going from like 4 o'clock in the morning, and then he just went straight to 9 o'clock at night. So, we were just like, oh, we'll roll with that. We'll go out that time. Yep. But he was right on time. 9 o'clock, he came in that night. I don't think he was expecting us to be there. We sort of came in a different way and parked the vehicle like way back in a different spot. And whether that had something to do with it, I'm not sure. But anyway, that's when he came in and we were able to get him with the thermal. But yeah, so he adapted, and we had to adapt with him.
Well, I think that's a good one, is that, I've got my thermal spotter. It's brilliant.
Yep.
Absolutely brilliant overnight. And that first little bit in the morning I find as well, or just, as the sun's setting as well. It's a tool.
Yes.
If you've got an animal like that, and you said he took you 4 years, you couldn't get him with the traps. He killed 500 sheep. I don't even want to know the value of that to the farmer.
Yep.
It's got to go.
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, that's the reality of the world we live in. It'd be great if, it was like a Disney film, but it's not. And that makes sense. And I think you were right on the money when you were saying before, we seem to wait until the population explodes.
Yep.
And then it's like panic stations to just try and do whatever we can instead of being sensible about it. Do like the North American conservation model, tags, whatever you want to do, but just keep it rolling and have that steady roll-on effect, as opposed to just let's stop, they explode. Let's throw things, but we're already behind the 8 ball. We could have just managed it sensibly the whole time, and through every means. That's just I don't understand why we make some of the decisions we make. That's for sure.
Yeah, look, I'm all for that. Like it's even if you're trying to weed out rec shooters who could be going out to take the piss on it all, like, and just go out and play up and muck up and cause a bit of havoc, we'll probably have rangers and stuff cruising around and but making sure that if someone's willing, I still think this, if someone's willing to go and shoot a deer, they should probably be willing to use it. So
yes,
don't just let people go out. Like we're talking in a rec hunting environment here, not culling on a private property, but in a rec hunting environment, I think they should somehow make sure that people do the right thing and utilise it. Don't just waste it. Don't just go out there and shoot the shit out of everything and just leave it, because that's what we're trying to stop, isn't it? But there are rec hunters that will do that. That's the trouble.
Oh, look, and I say it all the time. I think the majority of everybody are good people, but you've always got your 1% or, it might be a tad more, tad less, whatever it is. But I would love to see more money go into supporting DPI, GMA, all those places that are upholding the law and trying to catch the people doing the wrong things. Because I've talked to so many landholders that have had bad experiences and they taint it for other people, and that's not fair. And that's a big part of our problem. That I've spoken to them and said, can I get on? And they said, mate, sorry, we don't let any, rec hunter on because we've had people shoot cows and shoot up water tanks and just go happy just shooting into the dark. It's unsafe. Get it. And again, I'm not saying I think the vast majority definitely do the right thing, but we also, I think as hunters, as anyone, try and if people aren't doing the right thing, we don't need to be associated with them. They're the bigger threat than anything else, in my opinion.
True. Yeah.
Forget the whether you like the Greens or the AJP or any of that. I honestly feel we have bigger threats from within is our problem.
Definitely.
Because it speaks volumes, and the community just see that side of it. I've spoken about it with everything. I've talked about it with the NRL's the perfect example. So many of the blokes do so many great things and go and see sick kids and charity work, and one does a DUI or does something wrong, and that's plastered all over the news. The 100 good things is not shown, and that's usually the reality of what we face and the sensationalism of media as well. So I sort of get that. Now, for the trapping side, for people that are curious, have not got into it, is there a couple of little tips to start that are very generic, not in the way of, dealing with the animals that you're dealing with, because you get the high-end animals that are, hard for the rec person to get. Is there just a couple of basics, like, for someone to start out with?
Well, yes, there is. If we're talking about trapping things like foxes and cats and dogs, avoid using the cage traps. They just don't seem to work as good. Look, all right for cats, but avoid using it. They just don't work as good. That's as far as that goes. I would, and it is a tough one. There is a basic, it is basic, but for me to explain it just over a podcast would be a bit hard. But it's all you got to have your traps sort of tuned up and
Well, so what's tuned up? So that's you've mentioned that before.
So you've got to have all your pan tensions and stuff right. So it's adjusted. If you've used foothold traps, you would have seen they've got the pan where they put their foot, to set the trap off.
The pan's for our listeners. The pan's the flat bit that the paw goes on to trigger it.
Yes, 100%. So you would have probably if it's loose and flappy like that, well, that's probably not ideal. You don't want that.
Yep.
It's your pan height, setting your pan height. That's very, very important, especially if you're catching like a dog, because they've got a pretty big pad once it's splayed out on the ground. If you have your pan sitting too high, they can premature trigger your trap off before their foot's actually within the jaw span. So
okay, would it go the opposite way as well if it's too low? Because would they touch the sides, and that might
not as much. Not as much so, but. Think of it like this. So the smaller the pan, the more accurate the catch. Does that make sense? So the smaller your footprint of your pan, you have to draw that animal's foot closer to the center of that jaw span before
Gotcha.
it fires. Yep. So the
Yep.
smaller the pan, the more accurate the catch. So you look at your old Lanes traps and stuff back in the day; they had a great big pan on them. And if you have a look, you can, and I have caught cats on the side, and like this was before. There's all like they used to put like a piece of candle bark or something under the pan just to get a bit of pan tension and things like this. Like it was
Yeah.
they're so much better than that now. Like you've got adjustment screws and stuff, so your pan's not just flopping around. So, and look at your target species. So, like a dog, for example, you want to probably run 3 or 4 pound on your trap. Like you get pan testers and stuff.
Yep.
You get them in these kits that we run. So, think of a cat. Like you might want to go down to 1.5 pound or something like that.
Yep.
A fox maybe 1 pound, like 1.5 pound, 2 pound, like. You've just got to work out the species you're trying to target and adjust your pan to that. There's a whole lot more in it. So like your setters on the side, you've got to have you haven't got to, but you want to aim to have for a perfectly tuned trap, like have even contact on both sides. So that's just a matter of tweaking those with a set of multi grips. It's always good to have a night latch on your trap,
Yep.
and that's normally just in the either the dog latch, like the latch that locks the pan, or
Yep.
the dogless traps are the go. They're the ones that I use now, so they don't have the latch that comes over the top of the drawer and hold it down. So, do you sort of know what a dogless trap is, or
No.
no? So it's what it does is it has a like it's latches at the back of the pan. So you push your jaws down, no different to what you would do normally, but that pan lifts up and the back of the pan hooks on the inside of the jaw. So there's actually no dog latch that comes over the top, which is brilliant because it doesn't matter, like for walkthrough sets and sneak sets and stuff along pads and different things, or in holes and stuff like that where a dog could be digging in. They're brilliant because your approach side can be any. And look, your approach side can be any with like a dog latch trap, but it's still not ideal because there's always potential for failure. So with those, like I'm a big fan of the dogless ones because you can just you can't really stuff it up really.
Okay.
Yeah. But again though, there's still tuning in those traps. There's a couple of little like we could talk hours on here. So
I know it's a hard one to put you in the space.
It is. If only I had a trap I could show people, I could do it while we're talking. Yeah. But anyway, it's yeah. So it gets like in your pan drop, like you want to have clearance under your pan. Like you want your pan to fully drop away. However, you still want the jaws to be released with clearance under the end of your pan. You don't want your pan dropping to the bottom before it's releasing your jaws. So you want to give yourself about sort of a 3 mil gap there. And all of that does, that just allows for if you've set and it's just say it's a bit sandy and you've had heavy rain, well, it may wash under, depending on what sort of pan covers you use, but there's always potential of a little stone to get under there. So you're just allowing for a little bit of error there in case, the worst case scenario, a little pebble or something gets in there where it shouldn't, just allows it to fall away. And then like pan covers. So, and this is getting back to like the trap shy, like a trap shy dog. There's a few very basic things to do there. Like it's, and like what you're saying with your fox. So if you've set traps, I certainly wouldn't douse my trap in oil. That's because what that does, he knows it's there. And foxes have got a real good way of digging up traps. Like they are very gentle with their foot. You can sometimes get them if you run a real loose pan tension if you're lucky, but so you're better off actually boiling your trap, getting rid of and boil it in some uke leaves or something like that, just to get that uke smell or something in there. But boil it up, get all that oil and all that by-catching blood that you may have caught something else with. Get rid of all that stuff, get it all off there, get that trap nice and clean, and that'll be a better chance of that animal not being as aware that it's in the ground. Foxes are very good at it. And the other one too is getting their head off the ground. If you can get their head off the ground, long grass is like in grass with a bit of length, like that's always a good one because it gets their head off the ground and it's when it's in them, like on the edge of the roads and stuff where you've got no grass, I guess. That's where animals pick up on that stuff more. And it's a good one because your dog's got his head up. You can have your lure up a bit higher, and you just set your trap back a bit further. There's other things like that, like you can set your trap back a little bit further, like try and draw him across it. If you don't get him with a front foot, well, we'll take a back foot catch too. So you might get him in the back foot, which is nowhere near his head, which is good because you're away from his nose. You don't want to be near his nose. A dog's like a dog and a fox. That's their little tool that they use to work out where food is, work out where danger is. They use their nose. If you howl a dog up, you can always have the wind go on be downwind of the dog, but there's very high chance that the dog will pop up behind you because he'll always, won't say always, but a lot of the times them old clever dogs, they'll just circle around behind you and get downwind you and then want to smell you before they see you. So if they smell you and they like it, they might come up. If they're not, they'll just smell you and go, and you never get to see the dog. So, but yeah, sorry, getting back to the trap thing. Yeah, look, hand covers, just use, if you are worried about like your fox, sort of, if you're thinking that he might know that there's a trap in the ground, wrap it up in baking paper. Just wrap it around the whole trap, a bit like a Christmas present. just cover the whole thing because that suppresses the scent in the ground. Baking paper really has no smell. Something like that, and obviously bury it in the ground. Yeah, but boil that trap up. Yeah, look, it's all about lure placement and things like that. Like that's where you set your trap. My best suggestion would be come to a school.
No, exactly.
It'd be so much easier.
Well, sitting here listening to everything you're saying, it sounds like such an art form, and there just sounds like so much to learn that, yeah, there needs to be a school.
There's lots to learn. It is practical. It's just I try and not like turn it into a like this really scientific thing. So I try and keep it as practical as possible. So it is like there is an art form to it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not down tuning it, but I'm not going to play it as if it's some sort of magical myth stuff either. So I want to keep. I like to keep things very practical. Until such time as you need to change it. So, and there are times that you need to, and all you're doing is adapting. That's it. You're just adapting to what you're presented with.
Oh, I got one last question for you because I'm curious at this. You boil up your trap to get rid of the scent.
Yep.
How do you set it without getting your scent back on it?
Set of gloves.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my question around that is, if you're running latex gloves, wouldn't it smell like latex then?
Yeah. Yep. So here's the thing, and this is what I say. You can be so people put mats and things down, right? And they're like, "What are you doing?" Because I don't use any of that shit, right? I just get down. I do try and minimise my presence, but like I'll try and just stay on the balls of my feet. The moment that I've stepped out of my buggy and walked up the track, they know I've been there. So what am I hiding? And people like me, "Oh, don't use a mat." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And they're like,
okay.
"Oh, well, how do you keep your scent off the ground?" And I said, "Well, what's your mat got on it? Like, won't they smell your mat?" And they're like, "Oh, but it's clean." And I said, "Well, you've just been kneeling on it, so you've got your scent on the mat. So which side of the mat were you on last time?" And he's like, "Oh, no, I always put this side up." And I'm like, "Okay, so where do you put that mat after that?" And they're like, "In the back of my ute." So what's been in the back of your ute that is on your mat? Like, it's just a never-ending story. Where do you draw the line? This is what I'm saying. You got to be practical because there's so many things that contradict itself, and all these old myths. There's so many old myths around. You get these old fellas, and nothing against the old fellas because they used to catch dogs and stuff, but there's so many old myths around. They'd say, a dog, he'll come in and he'll do this and he'll smell the tree here and he'll put his foot there, and it's like, you don't know because you never had a game camera. You're only guessing, mate. Like, we've got all this technology now, like cameras and that is where you learn everything. I can tell you whatever I want. Well, here's one for you to answer that prior question. Put a camera out and then start learning from that. Start learning from and start placing things around and putting different lures there. Watch how animals react. Start putting something together with that, because I'll be honest, that is where I basically learned everything. That there's a couple of good YouTube videos to get people going. Someone asked me the other day if I was going to do one, and I was sort of thinking kind of would be good but I'm just not into that. But I sort of steer him to like a Tony Townsend video. Tony Townsend, he'd be one for people to take note of.
Okay.
Look at him on YouTube, Tony Townsend. He's pretty good with what he does. I did watch one of his videos. That sort of, I got a couple of little things off that when you're getting started in that. So, I mean, would definitely say just jump on and watch some of it. Don't. And this is one of the things. If you're going to take notice of what people are telling you, if they're claiming to be this person, like a trapper or whatever, like you kind of need to know a little bit of background. Look at their resume, see what they've done, because there is so many people out there that are just want to be a trapper. Like they claim to be a trapper. Like it's a funny thing in this world of trapping. People are so funny, eh? Like these trappers, like they're all these secrets. Like they won't let these secrets out. Like it's just like you're just an idiot, mate. Like you're trying to stop other people from succeeding and getting rid of a problem. You know what I mean? Like it's something. There should be no secrets. We're all out. We're there to achieve a result. It doesn't matter who gets it. It's like a big wing contest. You know, like I caught this many dogs. It's like, who cares? Like you're probably somewhere where there was a heap of dogs. You know, like go and catch some hard ones. Like that's
people are very funny, and I've said that a long time. I don't worry about telling people what state forest I go to, but there are so many people that won't say a state forest, and it's like it's a huge place.
They own it.
Yeah, it's not something that's small that you go. I go down. I say it. I go down to Mooragle North, and I go down to Bago, and I like those. You know, a couple of forests down there. Jesus Christ, there is so much land there. If you're hunting in the same area that I am, good on you, because the chances of that happening are very, very slight. Yep. And if there is, that is what it is. Like, I'm not down there every single day. It's not my patch of land, and people are funny like that. I think it's just people. It doesn't matter what, look at fishos, and their little secret spots and holes. Yeah, everyone's the same.
And they're
so,
baiting it.
I think that's just human nature, isn't it? I think people. I don't know whether it's – and I understand one side of it. If people are out going hunting and they've put the time and effort into an area and to give it to someone and they go in and shoot something, if it blew out the area, I'd be saying yes. I don't know, mate. I'm not wired like that, so it doesn't really bother me. Yeah. But, people know where I'm going.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not for keeping secrets against people. I'm happy to help anyone out if they come and ask, but again, I won't just give out information to any Joe Blow who you just think's going to take the piss. Like someone genuine, I'll share anything that they want to know, that if I can help them in any way, shape or form. If it's someone, if someone doesn't come across the right way and you're like, you're not there for the right reasons, doing it for the right reasons, I'm like, just whatever.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, mate, it sounds like there's so much to learn. I think you need to get onto that and open those courses up to the public. I know I'll be. I'll get up there and do one because
we'll lock you in.
It's something that I think it's an art form. I think it's just another feather in the bow to learn, and I love learning. It's just what drives me. So, mate, awesome. Really appreciate you coming on. I'm sure we'll do it again in the future. It's it's been a while since we first spoke, but finally got around to it. I'm glad we did, and. Mate, keep doing it. I can't wait to see these courses come up and keep watching you on your journey. So, mate, thank you again for coming on.
No problem at all. And as you say, it will happen at the open up to like a private course, and it'll be good because I'll have Vodka, the other guy. He's German, that's his name, Vodka. So anyway, get him on. He's got a lot of other ideas than what I do, and what he does works completely. Some of the stuff he does completely different from what I do. So it'll be great to have people to get two different ideas, and then they can go and develop their own style, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Sounds good.
Yeah, awesome, mate. No, we'll talk soon.
Sounds good to me. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now. If you have a topic, guest, question, or any gear that you want to hear about on the podcast, shoot us an email, australianhuntingandbeyond@gmail.com. Alternatively, find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links are in the show notes. If you haven't already, make sure you give us a review and subscribe to our podcast on whatever platform you're listening on. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.